Gambia, Angola, China Holding, Gash, producers of the finest tomato paste in the Gambia. Jaja tomato paste, available in 5 kilos, 1 kilo and in sachets. For wholesale and retail, visit our factory at Banjulunding. We are also producers of Jaja mineral water, cool, clear and fresh. Gash, Gambia, Angola, China Holding, with headquarters at Fatu Golden Plaza, Mile 7, Bertel Harding Highway. Gash Group also provides the best security company, Gash Security, for your offices, warehouses, homes and personal property. Gash Group for all your construction projects, offering you quality water reticulation for your gardens, pump irrigation, tidal irrigation projects and all types of buildings. You can contact Gash on 396-7894, 700-8993, 373-0259. Visit us at Gash Global Group on Battle Harden Highway, Fatu Golden Plaza. Our website www.gashglobal.com. Gambia, Angola, China Holding, Gash.
It's a warm welcome to our studio here in Serekunda. This is Star TV News with Omodo Baila Barry. In the headlines tonight, Gambia Armed Forces receives 28 vehicles for quick reaction forces to United Nations mission. Baba Dindin Jobate labels former President Jammeh as a pathological liar. Ministry of Youth and Sports wrap up tour on sport facilities. On the international scene, Trump on trial, prosecutors urge state to convict Trump. Iraqi women struggle to escape abuses as domestic violence rises. Myanmar police join protest movement. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. A symbolic ceremony was held at State House this morning, marking the official handing over of vehicles that have been procured for the Gambia Armed Forces in line with the plan of deploying a quick reaction force to the United Nations mission. Dado Cham was there, and this is her report.
The Gambia Armed Forces received 28 vehicles, comprising 3 command vehicles, 10 transport vehicles, 1 bus, 2 ambulances, 2 recovery vehicles, 2 water tanks, and 2 fuel tanks. In the month of December, the Gambia Armed Forces conducted a virtual advance revisit by the readiness of the armed forces to deploy a quick reaction force. As of now, the Gambia Armed Forces has the necessary personnel and logistic as guaranteed by the vehicles that the Gambia Armed Forces received, said the Deputy Chief of Defense Staff, General Cham, who took the gathering through the activities that commemorated the ceremony. Recently, through the presidential approval, the cabinet has given approval for the Ministry of Finance to provide the required finance to the Gambia Armed Forces to procure needed equipment for its operation. The Commander-in-Chief of the Gambia Armed Forces, President Adama Barrow, was invited to inspect the vehicles for the keys to be handed over. Reporting for Star TV News, I am Dado Cham.
Lamin Baba Dindin Jobate testified before the Truth Commission to give his account on the allegations on him, as well as expound on the role he played in the execution of 9 inmates who were set to gibbet in 2012 during his watch as Minister of Justice. He said former President Yahya Jammeh is the biggest liar. Our reporter Binta Koli tells us more.
Lamin Baba Dindin Jobate, who is advancedly mentioned by many victims, who has undergone numerous victimizations of their rights, and also said he was part and parcel of their torture. Some even said he played a key role in helping former President Yahya Jammeh for most of the difficulties Gambians went through. Jobate in his testimony said Yahya Jammeh was indeed a difficult to work with, as he would insult his cabinet ministers anytime he feels like doing. He said Jammeh has no remorse, and he always characterized himself to be the most truthful and honest person, while in actual sense he was a pathological liar. On the matter of the 9 inmates that were executed, the witness said he was not part of the illegal execution of the prisoners. He said he could not do anything to prevent the execution.
See, Mr. Fall.
Yeah, Mr. Fall.
What you need to understand. Yahya Jammeh would do whatever he likes.
Under
normal circumstances.
And all of you would follow him and support him?
I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that. Because I cannot judge everybody to be.
Let's talk about you. In this particular instance, you supported him and you enabled him.
By his documents.
He
said, upon my advice, which is false. I never advised him on this execution.
But what motivation would Yaya Jammeh have?
See, let me tell
to
you
say that you told him something when he could easily make you say that.
Yaya Jammeh can do anything. Besides, as far as I'm concerned, he is nothing but a congenital liar. Pathological liar.
Pathological liar. Those are your words.
Yes, my words.
It would be in the headlines tomorrow.
No problem.
Yeah, congenital/pathological liar.
Exactly.
By lawyer Jobate.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm not afraid to say so.
Well, you were afraid to tell him then.
But because of his powers.
But Mr. Jobate, you sat there and knowing that 9 people were going to be unlawfully executed. You kept quiet.
The man said, Billahi wallahi talaino, if I nimmanjinul fa.
The man said that, Billahi wallahi talaino, if I don't kill these people,
I will eat pork and drink alcohol. In front of the Banjul Muslim elders. If they cannot prevent him from doing so, who am I?
The witness further challenged the lead counsel that he could have only been at his house on the day of the execution, considering the time it happened.
On this date?
On the day of execution?
Yes, 24th August 2012.
I don't remember where I was, but certainly not at the place of execution.
How could you? This was an important event which immediately, soon afterwards, it was announced. And there was a whole hullabaloo about this execution. You would remember where you were.
If I had known the time of execution, maybe I will be able to joggle my mind.
It was at night.
Understood.
On the 12th of August.
What time of the night?
On the 24th of August 2012.
What time of the night?
It was late at night.
Are you sure about that?
That is what the testimony says.
I don't know where it was done, how it was done, by whom.
Let us try to establish where you were on that date.
Yes.
Tell us where you were.
I cannot tell you where I was because I don't take note or remember every minute of my life. You
agree with me that this was a seminal event? It was a very important event in Gambian history. Never before in our country has this happened.
Was similarly executed?
That was one person.
Indeed.
This is 9 people, including a woman. 2 foreign nationals. All in one day. It has never happened in Gambian history. So this was an event that as Minister of Justice you ought not, could not, should not have forgotten.
I did
not say I forgot. You asked us where I was at the time. And I told you I don't remember at the time where I was.
Are you avoiding telling us where you are? It's an honest question.
Why would I do so?
Because that would box you into a situation.
If I could recall where I was at the time, I would say.
Do you normally? Yes, finish.
Even if I were to tell you, I am at Gibraltar, how would you know that I'm not saying the truth?
Don't test me, Mr. Jobate.
Well, you tell me where I was.
No, you try it by giving me tell me where you are, which is patently not truthful, and I would be able to prove
I maintain my same position where I was at the time.
So you would not take up the challenge?
Why would I refuse to take a challenge?
Well, take it. Try it. Tell me this is the location you are.
One place I can presume to have been. I did not say it like that.
Can you repeat it in your own words?
Even whereas witness statements were read to him and also news articles on the matter of his presence in the night of the execution, the witness took the Quran and still maintained that he was not there. On the matter of Farafenni attackers and the much talked about allegation that he cut the nipple of one Balo Kante, this is what Alamin Babadindin Jobate had to say. He said he remembered questioning him after the brutality, but he was not involved or present when it happened. Reporting for Star TV News, I am Bintakuli.
In a quest to get first-hand information about the ongoing mini-stadia constructions in rural Gambia, a delegation from the Ministry of Youth and Sports, accompanied by an internal auditor from the Ministry of Finance and an assistant architect from the Ministry of Transport, Works and Construction on Wednesday, conducted a tour on the sport infrastructure project sites. Awasane has more.
The tour started from Flabantang in the Central River Region, Kiamanduar in the Lower River Region, and concluded in Kafuta Kombo East in the West Coast Region. The ministry in charge with the affairs of developing, promoting and regulating youth in sports programs and guided by its policy and strategic plans. Headed by Mr. Lamin A. Kamara, Deputy Permanent Secretary, Finance and Administrator at the Ministry of Youth and Sports, affirmed that the tour was to assess the project progression, noting that the ministry is ready to implement projects in the whole country. Leading the delegates to Fulabantam Mini Stadium, which is a 107 times 79 square meter land situated at the entrance of the district in Fuladu West constituency. The delegation observed that work is in progress as the perimeter fencing is completed and other structures are in progress. The project, worth $7.9 million, is to be completed in 6 months from November, when the foundation stone was laid. To GAM Engineering Construction Service, similar work progress is ongoing at 300 times 300 square meter at the Jula Far Mini Stadium in Kiamanduar and the Kafuta 200 times 175 square meters mini stadia. Both sides have made significant projects, and it is hoped that when the projects are finished, it will help to develop sports in the country. Reporting for Star TV News, I am Awasani.
Those were the local stories. We will be back with the international news after the break.
Gambia, Angola, China Holding, Gosh, producers of the finest tomato paste in the Gambia. Jaja tomato paste, available in 5 kilos, 1 kilo and in sachets. For wholesale and retail, visit our factory at Banjulanding. We are also producers of Jaja mineral water, cool, clear and fresh. Gosh, Gambia, Angola, China Holding, with headquarters at Fatu Golden Plaza, Mile 7, Bertel Harding Highway. Gosh Group also provides the best security company, Gosh Security, for your offices, warehouses, homes and personal property. Gosh Group for all your construction projects, offering you quality water reticulation for your gardens, pump irrigation, tidal irrigation projects and all types of buildings. You can contact Gosh on 396-7894, 700-8993, 373-0259. Visit us at Gosh Global Group on Battle Harden Highway, Fatu Golden Plaza. Our website www.goshglobal.com. Gambia, Angola, China Holding, Gosh.
Welcome back. And now, beyond our borders, Democratic impeachment managers have wrapped up their case against Donald Trump. They spent 2 days laying out what they describe as overwhelming evidences that the former U.S. president incited January's deadly insurrection on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Trump's defense team will take the Senate floor on Friday. Al Jazeera's Alan Fisher reports from Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., U.S.
There was no dramatic video from the impeachment managers on Thursday. Instead, there was a warning. Donald Trump had a history of political violence, and if he wasn't convicted, then there would inevitably be more.
The attack was done for Donald Trump, at his instructions, and to fulfill his wishes. Donald Trump had sent them there.
We love him. We love you, bro. No, he'll be happy. What do you mean? We're fighting for Trump.
All of these people who've been arrested and charged, they're being held accountable for their actions. Their leader, the man who incited them, must be held accountable as well.
Hey, we were invited here! They swore They're leaving so you can get there. They're leaving so you can get there. We were invited by the President of the United States! Waiting on their brothers, man.
If we don't draw the line here, what's next? What makes you think the nightmare with Donald Trump and his lawmaking and violent mobs is over? If we let him get away with it, and then it comes to your state capital, or it comes back here again, is there any political leader in this room who believes that if he is ever allowed by the Senate to get back into the Oval Office, Donald Trump would stop inciting violence to get his way? Would you bet the lives of more police officers on that?
I'm not afraid of Donald Trump running again in 4 years. I'm afraid he's going to run again and lose, because he can do this again.
The Democratic impeachment managers quoted extensively from Republicans who had blamed, criticised and condemned Donald Trump for what happened here on Capitol Hill on January the 6th, a clear message to the Republican senators now sitting in judgment.
Impeachment is not to punish, but to prevent. We are not here to punish Donald Trump. We are here to prevent the seeds of hatred that he planted from bearing any more fruit.
Many of the insurrectionists that President Trump incited to invade this chamber were dangerous. People on the FBI watch list, violent extremists, white supremacists.
Out over your paycheck! You guys! You can't even call yourself American!
I challenge you all to think about it. If you think this is not impeachable, what is? What would be? President Trump's lawyers endorse his breathtaking assertion that his conduct in inciting these events was totally appropriate, and the Senate acquits Donald Trump, then any president could incite and provoke insurrectionary violence against us again. If you don't find this a high crime and misdemeanor today, you have set a new terrible standard for presidential misconduct in the United States of America.
Donald Trump's defence team will now take about less than half the time allowed to present its defence, convinced it has the votes to stop the conviction of Donald Trump on the charge of high crimes and misdemeanors.
Domestic violence has been on the rise in most countries since the start of the coronavirus pandemic last year. In Iraq, a rights group says women there often have no choice but to remain with abusive partners because Iraqi law restricts to help support groups can offer. Al Jazeera's Simona has been out with a community police unit in Baghdad, Iraq.
Sheikh Wissam Asadi from Iraq's community police is following up a case of domestic violence in the capital, Baghdad.
We are on our way to Sadr City to visit families that suffered from domestic violence. Do you copy?
According to police, there's been a 20% increase in domestic violence since the start of the coronavirus pandemic. Sadr City is one of Baghdad's poorest neighborhoods and is said to be among the worst affected. Doha Sabah has been married for 18 years. She says her husband began beating her last year.
There are problems with the house. When it rains, it gets flooded. We don't have an income. The kids need to go to school and I cannot afford it. Whenever I talk to him about the issue, he beats me and the kids.
Doha called the community police, which is part of the Ministry of Interior, to intervene.
It reached the point where they were going to divorce and the family would break up. We intervene in any issues to unite the family to prevent the breakup of families, which may lead to tribal conflicts.
To solve the case, the unit worked closely with local tribes. The community police claims to have a 90% success rate in resolving domestic abuse cases. But critics say the unit reinforces conservative social norms, prioritizing reconciliation over victims' rights. Lawyers say many women drop cases against partners because of lack of money and social pressure.
The social values and customs consider it shameful for the woman to file a complaint against her husband or brother. Even if she did file a case, as soon as her family hears about it, she will drop it.
And victims often have nowhere to go anyway. There's one government-run shelter in Baghdad, but it only provides accommodation on a judge's order. Some women seeking urgent refuge turn to rights groups that run underground operations. This woman endured her husband's abuse for more than 20 years.
We have tribal rules. If the woman left her husband's house or her parents' house, she will be killed.
The tipping point was when he began to sexually harass their daughters. One night, they crept out of their home and came to this shelter.
The law doesn't protect me. Maybe they will find my location. I'm scared to sleep at night. I'm afraid of the tribes.
Although these shelters offer a lifeline to women escaping abuse, they have to operate in secret because they're illegal under Iraqi law. Last year, the government filed a lawsuit against the group that runs it, accusing it of breaking up families.
The cabinet demanded to dissolve the organization. We managed through repeated sessions to get the law case dismissed, but the government appealed, and now we are waiting to find a solution.
The Prime Minister's office didn't respond to repeated requests for comment. A domestic violence law that would legalize these shelters has been stalled in Parliament for years amid widespread political opposition. Until such a law is passed, rights groups say, Iraqi women will struggle to escape abuse at home. Simona Fultin, Al Jazeera, Baghdad.
Myanmar's junta leader has urged government workers to return to work after 6 days of mass demonstrations. Ming Hong also asked people to avoid gatherings due to COVID-19, but protesters are demanding the release of their elected leaders and that the junta step down. Earlier, the United States announced it is imposing new sanctions on those behind the military takeover. Al Jazeera's Scott Hedler reports.
Maintaining their momentum, thousands of protesters again pour onto the streets across Myanmar in their civil disobedience campaign against last Monday's coup. There are many different groups representing many walks of life.
This campaign is a little strange in Burmese culture, but we think that the main goal is to get attention from other countries. So all the boys joining this campaign are risking their lives and putting aside their shame.
Joining trade unions and groups of workers already taking part in the movement, some police officers in Kaya State broke ranks and joined the protesters, calling themselves the police of the people. Someone who was in the 1988 Myanmar student uprising that ended in a violent military crackdown says this movement has much broader support.
I think that the military will not be able to use their might in full extent, because the time is different, the world is different now. You can see that the world's leaders came out with the strong statements, especially the New Zealand Prime Minister Ardern came out with this very strong statement that they cut the relationship with the military regime.
Jo Tensway, a top aide to Aung San Suu Kyi, and several others with links to the ousted government were taken from their homes overnight, joining the more than 140 leaders taken in the first hours of the coup, including Suu Kyi. Officials from the Electoral Commission are also reported to have been taken. The junta says that the NLD landslide victory in November was fraudulent, citing that as the main reason for its takeover. The U.S. announced that it will impose sanctions against the military rulers, a move that more nations are expected to follow. A slowdown on foreign investment is also anticipated. Like previous periods of military dictatorship, that could lead to the country tightening its already close economic relationship with China. Myanmar is one of the poorest countries in Southeast Asia, and sanctions and a potential return to pariah status to most of the outside world could undo the economic progress since the election in 2015. But for now, the message and the goal for the protesters are clear. Get as many people as possible out on the streets, while at the same time drawing in more international attention and involvement. Scott Heidler, Al Jazeera.
Okay, let's bring in our correspondent Florence Louis following those developments from Kuala Lumpur. Florence, what more did the coup leader have to say in this written statement?
Well, he's urged government workers to return to work to stop the strike, and he's also blaming the work strike on, he said, quote, unscrupulous persons, harassment from unscrupulous persons. He's urging people to avoid large assemblies because of coronavirus concerns. And it also appears to be a different tactic by the military, a softly approach, because also included in that statement is a line about how the military will review the laws on benefits to civil servants. Now, it appears to be seen whether or not these words will have any impact on the protests, which don't seem to be losing any momentum. And, just a quick check on social media. People are already pouring scorn on Min Aung Hlaing's comments, with many people saying we're scared of coronavirus, but it's worse to live under military dictatorship. And other people are saying the only reason we're out on the streets is because this coup took place. And yet more others are saying that people who are taking part in the strikes are the people who are truly loyal to the country. Now, the fact that this is Min Aung Hlaing's first statement on the protests and also his second statement in 4 days suggests that the military is perhaps feeling the pressure from what's happening in the country. These protests are in their 6th successive day, and they don't seem to be losing any momentum, and the civil disobedience strike is also growing larger as each day, with rail workers being the latest group to join in the workers' strike. Peter.
Florence, thank you very much. Florence Louis there reporting live from Kuala Lumpur.
And before we end the news, a quick recap of our main headlines. Gambia Armed Forces receives 28 vehicles for quick reaction forces to United Nations mission. Baba Dendin Jobate labels former President Jammeh as a pathological liar. Ministry of Youth and Sports wrap up tour on sport facilities. On the international scene, Trump on trial, prosecutors urge state to convict Trump. Iraqi women struggle to escape abuses as domestic violence rises. Myanmar police join protest movement. That's all for this edition of the news. Do join us tomorrow for more news. Thank you very much for watching and have a very good night.